Hi, in this video I'm going to talk about why niche trade shows matter for enterprise sales and for cracking into the enterprise market or into enterprise customers, especially if you're an enterprise SaaS startup or technology company. I'm going to cover why trade shows matter, what type of trade shows you want to go to, how we got the most out of it when we did this, and a couple of additional things that we learned. Why do trade shows matter? Why is enterprise sales so hard? Well, trade shows matter because enterprise sales is so hard. You're selling to large companies that likely already have a solution. That solution may be better than what you built, what you're selling. Minimally, they have experience with it. They have embedded that into their processes. They have validated the technology. So it's very hard to replace existing solutions and demonstrate that you are better. It's even hard to get into these companies. And once you're in, survive in negotiations and discussions as the corporate immune system kind of kills new ideas, as key champions and buyers are changing in the organizational chart, as the company may be restructuring itself. Not sure whether that stuff you experienced, it's stuff that I constantly experienced. I was talking to someone, the next day that person was gone. And in addition to that, what has obviously also happened in the recent past is that, I don't know whether it's the recent past, what has happened, and I think it's undeniable, is that buyer behavior is changing. What we are seeing is that cold sales, paid advertising is working extremely poorly. They have their own spots in the journey of a customer, for instance, just to generate awareness, but they rarely actually work out to sell the way you're intending them to. So you got to look for additional options. Now, what are your options? Obviously, since I'm talking about trade shows in this video, I think that that's a viable and very important part of your toolkit of going to market with an enterprise solution. I have a separate video talking about demand creation and content strategy, and I think these tie together very tightly, so they're actually very symbiotic strategies for taking your business to market. So, without further ado, let's jump into these 4 categories of topics that I want to discuss. Why trade shows matter. Talked about how enterprise is very hard. What we have experienced when we did this, and I will talk a little bit about our results toward the end of this video, is that trade shows just command attention. Buyers, decision makers at enterprises go to trade shows and look at stuff there. They listen to key opinion leaders. They listen to presentations of their peers. They try to stay on top of things. Maybe they even have requirements with regard to continuous and ongoing learning. So trade shows do command that attention, and you want attention. Attention is what sells. Secondly, trade shows help you to get in. You meet people, you never know what kind of connection leads to what kind of result, so you gotta be there. Now, what type of trade shows matters though? You do not want to go to mass events with thousands of attendees. You want to go to niche events where you may have a couple of hundred, low thousands of participants. They usually, because they're so focused, come with a very high price tag. We've regularly paid over 1K USD to get a ticket, a single ticket for the trade shows that we were looking for. So you're looking for that niche. In addition to that, you're looking for trade shows that have a proven track record, that have been around for some time, that can demonstrate that they attract key opinion leaders and thought leaders. They may work at your buyers. They may be consultants. Buyers do listen to consultants that have been working for these organizations before and then are chartered out on their own. But also VP level, heads of directors, senior directors, or even CEOs and CXOs are the types of people that you're looking for if you're in enterprise sales. They do move the needle for you. So proven track record is important. I have seen a lot of trade shows that are just getting started, that are hustling their way through things where prices are still high, but they don't have track record. They've never done anything good for me. Do not recommend. You can still go to if you have nothing better to do. And a little bit of budget on your hands, just because there may be the odd lead that you can generate and that could lead to unexpected results. You never know, but focus initially on the high price niche events that are targeting your specific audience that you're trying to sell to. Now, thirdly, I think you want to look for a conference or a trade show, whatever you call it in your region, that has networking capabilities. Otherwise, why are you going? Even if they're just a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand participant, it's still very tricky to actually meet someone if you don't have some kind of networking capability. We started very heavily investing in trade shows during the pandemic. where everything was shut down. Sounds counterintuitive, but was a great time for meeting people online. People would still go to expensive trade shows, including our decision makers, and we had all the tools that we needed in order to hit them through the networking capabilities of the trade shows that we were going to, which were all using very good platforms, infrastructure providers to enable that type of feature set. Now that we have moved back to offline, I would still look for those capabilities, whether it's an app or whether it's an online platform or kind of set parts of the agenda that are dedicated to meeting each other, or at least some kind of networking lunches and dinners. I think you do want to have those. In our case, we were an enterprise SaaS, or are an enterprise SaaS in the healthcare technology space. And one example, or two examples maybe, of trade shows that we attended and where we saw a lot of traction. One is Scope. I think that's the Summit for Clinical Trial Executives, or Clinical Operations Executives, where you would have all the directors, all the heads, all the senior directors, all the VPs of clinical operations, data science, data management come to, which was our exact buyer, or at least our user that could sell us to their CXO, CFOs that we needed to talk to and demonstrate our capabilities to. That's one. Another one was DTRA, Decentralized Clinical Trial Alliance, launched by a KOL in the space that attracted pretty much everyone that was interested in how to digitize clinical trials and make them more efficient and risk-free, which is what our solution was all about. So that's the type of trade shows I think you want to be looking for. High volume mass events are useless, if you ask me, when you're selling expensive products, because you need to build relationships. You need to get to talk to your specific buyers rather than shoot shotguns at broad targets. Now, how did we get the most out of it? Or in some sense, what was our process or our approach, our gradual step-by-step approach that we took with trade shows? In the beginning, as with every new initiative, we had massive skepticism inside the organization, our organization, with regard to whether we should invest in expensive trade shows. That's why we started by attending. That's a lot cheaper, just sending one or two people. They're maybe gone for 2 to 3 days, and then you have a week of preparation for it. If it's digital, they don't even have to travel. So attending was the step one that we took. Then from there, once we built some trust with executives at the company, we started presenting, which was very synergistic with our content and demand generation strategy, where we developed deep subject matter expertise based content like white papers, and then turned that into presentations for trade shows that actually demonstrated our capabilities in not a salesy way, but in a thought leadership way, which is, I think, the best way to do this. You do not want to be demoing your product at these presentations. I think that's a waste of everyone's time. Go there, show what you can do maybe an analysis of a data set that you have, and that's a great way to present at a trade show. And from there, we moved on to sponsorship. Now, sponsorship was a little bit of a hot take at the organization, because we had very mixed feelings about whether or not it makes sense to have a booth or to be on flyers, and the different types of things you can do as a sponsor, like getting coffee to your table or to your booth, or food or drinks in the evening. We trialed that a couple of times among attending and presenting, or versus attending and presenting. I feel it's the lower ROI strategy that you can take with trade shows, also because that's where it starts to become very expensive. You have to rent a booth, you have to have catering, you have to send more people, you have to, get the amenities and the desks and the laptops in place at the booth. And, again, it's a salesy environment, so your leads are less likely to actually go and, walk through the booth area of the trade show. But it has still proven beneficial for us, especially in terms of moving deals forward, meeting with existing customers, giving them a place to come to in case they want to do so and meet with us and see a face. And I'll have a top point on this later on as well. And then across all of these, we always combined it with omni-channel activities. What I mean by that is we would always try to figure out who's going, hit them up on the platform of the trade show, but also hit them up on, just try to reach out on LinkedIn, get in touch via email. We would post on social that we're going, we would send out newsletters that we're going to these events. So we would just try to get as much ROI and value out of these trade shows and our surrounding activities, which also shows you, and that's a good segue into my next point, which is what we learned. Trade shows, if taken seriously, are high effort, high cost, high time intensive. You need to have a long list of trade shows. You need to prepare, and especially if you're sponsoring, you will be preparing a couple of months ahead. You need to be talking to trade show organizers, especially the niche ones, almost a year in advance, because they have such high demand for their networking spaces and the free slots for sponsoring that they have, that's gone pretty quickly and taken by other vendors. What we also learned once we started putting in the effort is that it drove insane results for us. In our case, it drove about 80% of our leads and 90% of our revenue. And it would have been 100% of our revenue had we not been incubated as a company with a specific deal that had already driven revenue for us. So it was critical from a traction perspective, which was able to take us from, I think, 1 million in ARR, annual recurring revenue, to 6 in less than 2 years. And that led us to be able to raise a 21 million Series A. So trade shows are definitely a big enabler for us in enterprise SaaS, in somewhat of a conservative industry in biopharma specifically. Since I'm talking about health tech enterprise SaaS, we were selling to biopharmaceutical companies for their clinical trials, and increasingly contract research organizations and medical device companies. But the core was actually contract research organizations and biopharma companies. The third bullet in what we learned is that it did move deals for us forward. So that was critical too. Sometimes, as you will be completely aware, deals get stuck in your pipeline. You need an accelerator, and a personal touch point is, just the best way to reconnect and move that bloody deal forward and hopefully through to closed one. And then the last one is for some maybe a little counterintuitive, but it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. It actually protects existing customer relationships. If you're not selling actively all the time to your existing set of customers, someone else is trying to get in. And at some point, at least with a certain set of your customers, you're going to succeed. So you gotta be at trade shows, interface, have regular touch points, make sure that you deliver on your promises and not have a shitty product in order to protect those customer relationships and not have churn and not have a competitor taking over your accounts. So that's why I think the point gets really clear when I say it drove 80% of our leads and 90% of our revenue. That's why the trade shows, combined with the demand creation and content strategy, were so critical for us. Definitely start attending, ideally start presenting, and then if you have a little bit of budget on your hand as your business grows, start sponsoring for the various benefits that I mentioned. But you can definitely defer sponsoring. You can get a lot out of trade shows just by attending. You can get a lot out of trade shows on top of attending by presenting, and then sponsoring is something you can experiment with in your specific case. Hope you found this useful. Any questions about enterprise sales? I've spent a lot of time creating demand, building channel partnerships, selling to strategic accounts. Definitely reach out in the comment section below. You can ask questions. I'll get back to you. If you enjoy this video, please leave me a thumbs up. It's a nice signal that I enjoy as a content creator in terms of feedback. And if you would subscribe to my channel, that is the same type of feedback that I love to see. That's it from my side. Again, get in touch if you have questions. Have a great day. Bye-bye.